Welcome, Mushin Warriors, to another episode of Mushin Mental Academy, where our purpose is to provide you the tools for engagement in presence. Today's episode is centered around just that, around engagement. So let's jump right in. Engagement is a quality very similar to time. Engagement is how we're able to surf between consciousness and unconsciousness, between relating with something and between a conscious idea of separation, right? So, how do we fit with engagement? How are we able to relate with it? Well, engagement is a gift that we're able to balance and navigate ourselves because it's the gift of ourselves. That's what engagement is. Engagement is how much of ourselves we are willing to consciously relate and tie with subject, whatever that might be. And that's why different tools that show us how to engage or disengage are very, very useful. And we'll play around in a different video about, unconsciousness, consciousness, and we can look and see how these pieces fit with that. But that's its own video in itself. I don't want to confuse this one too much with it. So to get back on the subject itself, one way that I like to see or look at engagement when I wish to have a better understanding for it and how it relates is to consider water, right? By knowing about water, having experienced water, having, dealt with it in multiple situations, I'm able to mentally relate and engage with it at a certain level, right? So if I'm thirsty, I can think about water and be like, all right, like it'd be nice to have some water right now. Where have I seen water? How can I go get it? It's something that I understand. I know how it does and how it relates to me, right? So I'm able to draw that connection. Cool. Now, once water is present, it's around me. In this case, I'm sitting by the lake, so water is in my direct visual spectrum. It's easier for me to put my attention to it. I'm able to see it. Say, okay, well, water's right there. I can see the ripples from the wind. I can have a better understanding for how it works. And I can even see a little bit more clearly how I can get to it, how I can access it, how I can play with it. It's a little bit more me. I'm a little bit more engaged with it. Cool. Well, if I have a cup of water, now I have the choice to allow it to enter me. I'm able to open myself up and bring it to me in a way that I allow it to flow through that honestly is very critical. Without water, we'd be dead. Some argue over a period of time, but honestly, that's not true. If there's no water at all in our system, we're immediately dead. We need water to survive. By drinking water and the period of time that it takes us to die if we don't consume new water, that's there for how the water is impacting our system, how it's cleaning us, how the flow functions with our life. But knowing how it relates and then opening myself up to it, I'm able to experience it. I can feel what water feels like. I can see what wetness, apparently is. And I can see how my body changes and how the water changes through becoming one, which ultimately is what engagement is. Engagement is taking two or how we consider it to be two. If I consider this to be separate from me, all it is why I consider it to be separate. So if I consider it to be separate because I'm seeing that there's space between us, all it is my appreciation and consideration of the space too. But if I want to bring it closer to me and engage with it more, I can pick it up and I can feel it in different ways. I can give more of myself, more of my desire, more of my willpower, my motor functions, my energy, my time, all of this, I can allocate towards this engagement. So through our engagement and our engagements, with any subject, this is how we experience. This is how we are and be ourselves. I can touch the grass, be, right now I am sitting in the field, on a sunny day, relaxing. Like I am all of these things. I get to feel and experience them and they resonate with me, right? So all of these pieces are seen, experienced, and played with through the act of engagement, through giving ourselves. And the more of ourselves that we give to the subject, the more engaged we are. Just like when we're watching TV, if we're watching a movie or if we're seeing a show, we might have our mental or spiritual connection with what's going on. We have our auditory and visual field. We have a little bit of the physical side too, from like sound waves, just from the environment that we're in, but we're still only engaging at certain levels. So we're able to almost feel like we're part of the movie in certain terms and really get that rush, like after you've watched an action movie, like there's an energy that is being transferred. Like you are receiving an energy, you are engaging with that subject, right? And so how much we engage, how much of ourselves we're able to tie in is how deeply you will be connected with that subject. So, I challenge you to go play with this on your time, find out, what you choose to engage with. What situations do you realize you are all in for versus what situations do you find yourself bored and out of touch? Are there any environments where you're there and you're just like, I barely feel like I'm alive right now. Like I'm just like none of this matters. Like I'm not there. If you're in any situation like that, I recommend looking at that a little bit. Or if any situation even resembles elements of that, I would consider play with that. Write these down and notice the patterns that your life is providing you. This is how I play with engagement to understand myself and how I relate with life. So I hope this brings you some value. I appreciate you very much, and I will see you next week. Be awesome, be beautiful, be yourselves.